camera to stand up the way I want it to. Yeah, very good. Ah, it's even focusing. Now, this is version 2 of the software, which is more or less not much new in here that wasn't in version 1, except I've filled out all the details for all the switches. So we looked at just switch 14 and did the code for that. This has the code for all the switches based on this table here of what a control terminal is for switch 1 and what the button control terminal is for switch 1, and repeated 14 times for each switch. So again, defining the buttons, defining the LEDs, what pin belongs which, lots of comments there. Then get into void setup, the bit that runs when you first boot it up. It's saying what each one of these things does. So the button pin 1 through 14 are all inputs, LED pin 1 through 14 are all outputs. Define pull down resistor, set its initial value. Button pin 1 are all set at high because they're not grounded. But LED pin 1 through 14 are set at low because they're not outputting any volts or near 0 volts, so the LEDs are off. All set up. Then we get to void loop, and here again repeating the same thing over. We had this statement for button pin 14. We didn't have all this commentary here. Repeated 1 through 14 to define the button state as being the current state of read state of the button pin, and here we're saying LED state is the digital read of LED pin 1 through 14. Now, again, for each switch, it's the same text over and over. Start of switch 1, there's its corresponding terminal numbers. Buttons state 1, it's the same stuff over and over all the way through to switch 14, which is down here. And then there's the end of switch actions, and there's the end of the void loop, which is there. That's it. Anything that was in if you watch the previous part that explained how these things work, it's a strange screen anomaly there, I don't know what that is. But if you watch that, it's the same stuff over and over. That's an interesting, there's a very expensive visual effect there. I don't know why it's doing that. So the next thing I'm going to do is go back to the hardware. So we're sort of swapping between hardware and software upgrades. So in my previous part I went through and showed how I wired up all the switches, just basically to run this stuff here. And the next thing I'm going to do is wire up in the hardware the Midi DIN plug and how that is connected to the Arduino, and then we'll start inserting some commands in here. So this has all been pretty tedious stuff so far, just getting all this set up. But now with this, you've got the bare bones of what you need to start building your custom controller to make it do what you want to do. And what we'll be doing is saying, for example, what's switch number 1 going to do? Right, so when we turn it on and the LED pin goes to high, this is where we're going to say it's going to, for example, send a Midi command to turn something on. And then when we turn the LED off to low, we'll send a similar Midi command, but to turn it off. So that might be a control, a CC command control, to say turn the chorus on. So give it a whatever its Midi implementation value is for turning the chorus on, with usually it's a value below 64. So 0 to 64 is going to be turning it off I should say, and 65 to 128 is turning it on. Stuff like that. So that's a bit more interesting than all this I've been doing so far. Anyway, enough talk. The next video will be wiring up the MIDI controller, or showing that wired up. Bye.